section 6.3, the percent proportion. This one's pretty straightforward. It's nothing too terribly complicated about the concept behind it. Basically, I'm going to give you a very simple equation. It's a very simple proportion. It's where we talk about the part over the whole is equal to percent over 100. We'll explain what all this means in just a second. But the way in mathematics they do this equation, this is what it looks like. A over W equals P over 100. I don't really like that for some reason because it just doesn't make sense. Why does A mean part? This and these two make sense, but just doesn't work. So the best way, if you can remember this equation in your mind, the part over the whole is equal to the percent over 100. And so let's just do a for instance. Let's say you have a 20 question test. So you have 20 questions on that test. I can't spell question. And you got 15 right. So what is your grade? What is your percent? Well, this is how you would set it up. You would set up your proportion. The 100 always goes here. And we know that there was a total or a whole total of 20 questions. And you got 15, which was the part, correct. So now your job is to find the percent. Well, now that you do that, it's just a matter of cross multiplying and dividing. Okay, so this right here would give me 1,500 is equal to 20p, and we can do the little bit of math over here. 1,500 divide by 20, and we get that 75 is equal to p. So if it was a 20 question test, you got 15 right, you would make a 75%. That's pretty straightforward. The difficult part is when we get to little word questions and like that, is identifying what the part is, the whole is. Those get a little bit confusing. The percent's easy to identify, so let's just do a couple of them with you. So I'm going to set this up, and let's look at this one. It says 40% of 60 is what number? So knowing that this is the way my formula is always written, I already can say that that 40 is going to go right here over 100. And now I need to figure out what this 60 is. Is that going to be my part or is that going to be my whole? Well, it says 40% of 60. In other words, we're trying to find out what 40% of 60 is. And let me rephrase that. If we know, basically, we're trying to find out what the part of 60 is. So in this particular case, it means that that is my whole. And so this would be my part. Okay? So we can cross multiply again, and we would get 100. And I'll put P this time, equals 60 times 40. 2,400. Divide by 100. And we find out that the actual number that we have, we could use whatever, I just wrote part, but whatever it is going to be, let's do a little bit of math on the side, double check my calculations, 24. So the part is going to be 24. Now, did I have to use the actual word part? No, I could have used any variable I could think of. We could have used the letter A, that's fine, doesn't really matter as long as we understand it. So again, let's do number 2 together. We're going to put our line. Automatically, we know 100 needs to go here. It says 17 is what percent of 50? So we don't know the percent, so I'm going to put, again, just P for the sake of argument. And now I have this. It says 17 is what percent of 50? That means that this is my part because this is smaller than that. So 17 is what percent of 50. Cross multiply and divide again. 17 times 100 gives me 1,700. So 1,700 is equal to 50 times my P. Divide by 50. I get 34 is equal to P. So my percent for this particular problem is 34%. Why don't you go try number 3 and number 4 on your own? All right, so for number 3, you should have had a proportion that looks like this. 57 over x is equal to 38 over 100. And the other one, when we solved for it, you should have gotten x is equal to 150. For number 4, you should have had x over 25 is equal to 44 over 100. When you solve for it, x is equal to 11. All right, now, on 5 and 6, I'm going to work these with you because we still are using those same terms, but we have some weird stuff that's happening in here. So let's go ahead and just set up our proportion. We know we're working with percent, so I'm just going to go ahead and set it up. And now let's look at it. It says 52 is what percent of 50? So, well, we need to find a percent, so we know that. But it says 52 is what percent of 50? In this particular case, it's saying that 52 is going to be my part, and 50 is going to be my whole. So this one's automatically really weird because most of the time when you think of a part, you're thinking that the part will be smaller. It's not necessarily the case. In this case, it's actually saying 52 is a percentage of 50. So think this one through. Everything that we've done before when it comes to percents, the percents are less than 100 because the number, like in this particular case, the number on top was smaller than the number on the bottom. And we had a small number less than 100%. But because this number is bigger than the bottom number, we're actually going to get more than 100%. So if we were to cross multiply and divide this, we would actually find out that 104% is our answer. So, and we can kind of back that up and kind of show it if we were to, I'm just showing you a little bit of numbers here. I can go 52 divide by 50, all right, and I get 1.04, and because I'm changing it again, we have 104. I can back it up another way just to kind of show you, cross multiplying and dividing by 50, and I get 104 again. So in this particular case, make sure that you don't always assume that because the smaller number is here, that it's always going to be in the numerator in your proportion. That's not the case. Make sure you're very careful when you're reading it. So let's look at this next one. Same concept. We're going to do our 100, and automatically this says 150%, so I got to put it on top. And it says 150% of what number is 18? All right, so 150% of what number? That means that we don't know the whole, okay? But we do know what it is after we do the 150%. Now that we have that, it's just a matter of cross multiplying and dividing. 18 times 100, and then we're going to divide, and we'll get 150x is equal to 1800. We'll divide by 150 now, and I get that x is equal to 12. All right, so in this particular case, my whole number was 12, and 150% of 12 is 18. All right, let's do number 7 together. You put 60% of your paycheck in your savings account. Your paycheck is $235. How much money did you put in your savings account? So we're going to do the same concept. We're going to set up our proportion over 100. We know that we're going to put 60% of the money in our account, and our paycheck, that's my whole, happens to be $235. So how much money did I put in there? Cross multiply and divide. 100A is equal to 235 times 60, and I get 14,100. Divide that by 100, and I get that my part, how much I'm putting in the bank, is going to be $141. All right, so the hardest part about this entire video, and it's just a matter of just getting some practice in, is determining what is your part and what is your whole. Percent's easy to identify because they literally put a percent sign there most of the time. So these are your two hardest things. And just take it slow, take it easy, and if you get something confused, you know where to find me, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.